Have you ever felt the pull of a mystery so deep, so ancient, that it stirs something in your soul, a longing for answers that lie just beyond the veil of the visible world? Imagine, for a moment, the secrets that lingered before the first breath of mankind, before history carved its stories in stone. What if the true battle for the soul of creation began, not with humanity, but with beings of light and fire, whose choices would ripple through eternity? If you have ever wondered about the hidden truths of heaven, the silent wars raging in the spiritual realm, or what truly transpired before the dawn of man, I invite you to pause and join this journey. Like, subscribe to the Chosen Gods, messages, and comments 777 below if your spirit has ever been stirred by these questions. Your voice, your curiosity, and your wisdom are part of a chosen generation, seeking truth that lies beneath the surface. Let us begin calmly with the world as it once was, silent, unspoiled, yet brimming with potential. The heavens, radiant and pure, watched over a nascent earth. Angels, those messengers and warriors of the Most High, fulfilled their sacred duties with unwavering devotion. Their voices filled the cosmos with praise. Their hands shaped the order of creation, and their eyes beheld the glory of God. There was no shadow, no discord, only the harmony of divine purpose. But even in this perfection, a question lingered. Can beings created for obedience ever yearn for something more? The book of Ecclesiastes reminds us, to everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven. Yet, what happens when a season is forced, when desire stirs in places it was never meant to awaken? As the angels gazed upon the earth, they saw beauty not of their own kind, fragile, imperfect, yet captivating. The daughters of men, with their laughter and tears, their ordinary joys and sorrows, became the focus of a fascination that would unravel the very fabric of the divine order. Genesis 6:22 records, "The sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves from any they chose." In that moment, the first boundary was crossed. What began as a glance became a longing, and longing became obsession. This was not merely a tale of forbidden love. It was the greatest tragedy of desire unchecked, a cosmic drama where the stakes were nothing less than the balance of heaven and earth. The angels, once content in their roles, now found themselves torn between loyalty and longing. Their hearts, designed for worship, began to carry shadows of yearning. Is it possible for a being of heaven to love something more than God? The question echoes through the corridors of time. A warning and a lament. The Psalms speak of the majesty of creation, of the heavens declaring the glory of God. Yet, even the most radiant beings can fall, drawn by the allure of what lies beyond their ordained purpose. The angels' fascination grew into a force that threatened to drag them down from the heights of glory. What started as silent curiosity became a secret gathering, a pact among those who could no longer resist the pull of humanity. The book of Enoch tells us that 200 angels, led by Samjaza, swore an oath to descend together, so none would face judgment alone. Their choice would not only alter their destiny, but change the world forever. The Nephilim giants, born of these forbidden unions, would walk the earth, bringing chaos and terror. Genesis 6:24 describes them as heroes of old, men of renown, but their legacy was one of destruction, not salvation. As the world groaned under the weight of their presence, the heavens watched in sorrow. The Creator, whose love had shaped every living thing, saw the harmony of his work unraveling. The cries of the innocent rose like smoke, prayers whispered through tears, asking if heaven still cared. And God heard every cry. The judgment that followed was not born of rage, but of sorrow, a divine reckoning to cleanse the world and begin anew. The flood, vast and merciless, swept away all that had been defiled. Only Noah, righteous in his generation, found favor in the eyes of the Lord. His ark became a symbol of hope, a flickering flame in a world drowned by grief. Yet, even as the waters receded, the story was not over. The women who had loved the fallen angels, who had borne the giants, remained. Their survival was not mercy, but the beginning of a new chapter, a chapter of judgment, of sorrow, and of transformation. Their choices, their love, had set in motion consequences that would echo through eternity. As we journey deeper into this narrative, we will explore the aftermath of rebellion, the nature of divine justice, and the enduring questions that haunt the human soul. What does it mean to cross a boundary set by God? Can love become a curse? And is there redemption for those who have fallen? Pause now. Let these questions settle in your heart. Like and subscribe to the Chosen God's Messages. And comment 777 if you feel the mystery pulling at your spirit. Together, we will lift the veil, step by step, and seek the wisdom that lies hidden in the ancient stories. For the journey has only just begun, and the truth awaits those who dare to seek it. Have you ever stood at the edge of a storm, feeling the world hold its breath, sensing that something unseen is about to break through the ordinary and change everything? Imagine the hush before the thunder, the stillness before the floodgates of heaven open. This is where our story now dwells, a world trembling on the threshold, unaware that the very fabric of reality is about to be torn by choices made in secret, by desires that refused to be silenced. As the angels gazed upon the earth, their fascination with humanity deepened into obsession. These were not fleeting glances, but lingering stares charged with longing and curiosity. The women of earth, living their daily lives, became the unwitting focus of a cosmic drama. They baked bread, sang songs, and told stories by firelight, never knowing that their laughter and tears had become the downfall of heaven's watchers. The angels, once radiant with the glory of obedience, now flickered with the shadows of yearning. Their loyalty, once unwavering, began to fracture under the weight of forbidden desire. What was it about these women that drew the heavenly host so powerfully? Was it their vulnerability, their strength, their capacity for love and sorrow? The angels, designed to reflect the light of God, found themselves drawn to the raw, unfiltered beauty of mortal existence. The Psalms declare, "What is man that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you care for him?" Yet, in this moment, the question was not of God's care, but of angelic longing that would soon rewrite the boundaries of heaven and earth. The air grew thick with anticipation. The world itself seemed to sense the coming storm. Animals grew restless. The wind carried a strange electricity. Even the silence of the night whispered secrets, as if creation itself was bracing for a collision it could not prevent. The women, though unaware of the true nature of the gaze upon them, felt a change in the atmosphere. Ordinary days suddenly felt extraordinary. The breeze seemed to hum with mystery, and every heartbeat echoed with the sense that destiny was drawing near. The angels' struggle was not merely with temptation, but with identity. They had been created for worship, for service, for the glory of the Most High. Yet, as desire grew, so did their questions. Could there be something more than obedience? Could love, even if forbidden, offer a deeper understanding of creation? The book of Ecclesiastes reminds us, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven." But what happens when heavenly beings try to force a season that God never intended? The angels stood at a crossroads, torn between their divine assignment and the promise of a love they could never truly possess. Each glance downward chipped away at their resolve. The celestial courts, the honor of bearing God's light, began to pale in comparison to the promise of mortal love. The forbidden became irresistible, and the boundaries set by the Creator blurred into temptation. The scriptures warn, desire outside of God's will is the seed from which all rebellion grows. The angels, once the embodiment of divine order, now stood on the edge of chaos, ready to abandon everything they were for a fleeting taste of what they were never meant to have. Down on earth, the women felt the weight of unseen eyes. It was not fear, but a strange sense of being chosen. Their lives, once simple, now shimmered with the possibility of something extraordinary. Yet, this sense of destiny was a double-edged sword. The invisible barrier between the eternal and the earthly was thinning, and with it came a sense of uneasy knowledge, deep and unspoken. that life was about to change forever. The angels' internal battle grew fiercer with each passing day. Guilt warred with longing. Memories of glory clashed with dreams of mortal love. The pull was no longer just a feeling. It was a force, threatening to drag them down from the heights of heaven. What is it that makes the forbidden so alluring? Is it the promise of knowledge, of experience, of being truly known? Or is it the test of our deepest truths, the boundaries that reveal who we truly are? Heaven and earth were never meant to intertwine in this way. The realms were designed to remain separate, each with its own laws and purpose. Yet, the angels were willing to risk everything for a chance at love. Their decision was not one of curiosity, but of rebellion. The Book of Enoch tells us that 200 angels, led by Samjaza, made a pact to descend together, so none would face judgment alone. Their choice would not only alter their destiny, but change the world forever. The moment the angels set foot upon the earth, a strange enchantment rippled through creation. Their beauty was not merely visual, it was supernatural. They moved with a grace that defied gravity, their voices a melody that resonated in souls, not just ears. The women who saw them felt an ache, a hunger, a fire that had no name. This was not ordinary attraction. It was as if destiny itself had reached out and touched them. But behind the divine allure, there was a shadow. The scriptures warn, Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. The beauty of the fallen was laced with danger, their charm a mask for ancient rebellion. The women, drawn like moths to a flame, found themselves caught between awe and helplessness. The angels offered promises that no human man could match, but beneath the surface, the world itself seemed to flinch. Nature knew. Heaven knew, and soon the women would learn that this was no fairy tale. The true horror was not in the love, but in its consequences. The longer the women stayed near the fallen angels, the more they began to change. A strange glow entered their eyes, a shift in their energy. They became marked by the divinity that once belonged to their lovers. Daily life lost its meaning. The touch of a human husband, the rhythm of routine, could no longer satisfy. They had tasted something forbidden, and now they were forever changed. Were they chosen or possessed? Was this love or a divine violation? The fallen angels had marked them from the heights of heaven, choosing the most radiant, the most alluring. Once on earth, they used all their powers, divine knowledge, charm, the illusion of perfect love, to become everything these women had dreamed of. But what appeared to be a dream was the opening act of a nightmare. The unions forged between angels and women were not marriages, but unholy covenants. Each time a celestial rebel took a woman as his wife, the fabric of the universe trembled. Heaven felt the breach, earth felt the consequence. Genesis 6:24 gives us a glimpse. The nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. These were the heroes of old, men of renown, but their legacy was one of destruction, not salvation. And so, the stage was set for the rise of the Nephilim, the cursed offspring of angelic rebellion and human vulnerability. From the moment they took their first breath, it was clear they belonged to neither world. Too large for cradles, too strong for swaddling clothes, they grew into giants whose hunger and power knew no bounds. The world, once a place of harmony, became a battlefield of shadows and sorrow. The consequences of crossing divine boundaries were now unleashed. The story of love had become a story of judgment, of chaos, of a world groaning under the weight of choices made in secret. The angels, the women, and the Nephilim were now bound together in a tragedy that would echo through eternity, warning, a lament, and a question for all who would listen. What happens when desire defies destiny and love becomes a curse? If you find yourself drawn to these mysteries, if your spirit stirs with the questions of heaven and earth, remember to like and subscribe to The Chosen, God's Messages. Your journey is part of a greater search for truth that lies just beyond the veil, waiting for those who dare to seek it. Have you ever wondered what it means to survive a storm that was meant to erase the world? What happens to those left standing when the waters recede, when the thunder quiets, and the silence of judgment settles over the earth. The flood had washed away the giants, the nephilim, and their angelic fathers were bound in darkness. But for the women who had loved the fallen angels, who had given birth to the giants, their story was not washed away. It was just beginning. As dawn broke over a cleansed world, the survivors must have felt an emptiness as vast as the ocean that had just swallowed their past. The women who had once been adored by beings of light now found themselves utterly alone. Their lovers, those radiant, rebellious angels, were gone, shackled by divine command, unable to offer even a final word of comfort. The world was new, but their hearts were heavy, burdened by the memory of choices that had altered creation itself. Imagine standing on the barren earth, the air still thick with the scent of rain and loss, knowing you had been part of a love so powerful it brought about the greatest judgment since Eden. The Book of Enoch and ancient traditions tell us that these women were not simply forgotten by history. Their fate was as profound and mysterious as the love that had drawn them into the arms of the Watchers. Some, like Nama, refused to bow to regret. Her name, echoing in both biblical and mythic traditions, became synonymous with defiance and beauty, a woman who wielded her allure like a weapon, leading others down the same forbidden path. But survival was not mercy. For most, it was the beginning of a punishment that would echo through eternity. The grief these women bore was not just personal, it was cosmic. Their sorrow became a lament that haunted the new world, a reminder of the price of crossing divine boundaries. Some fell to their knees in despair, their cries rising to the heavens, begging for forgiveness that felt as distant as the stars. Others, unable to bear the weight of their choices, descended into madness, haunted by memories of lost love and drowned children. Yet, the story does not end with sorrow. Divine justice, as carried out by Archangel Michael, was not content to let these women simply fade into obscurity. Their punishment was poetic and terrifying. According to the Book of Enoch and early Christian interpretations, the women who had united with the fallen angels were transformed into sirens, creatures of haunting beauty and eternal longing. Their voices, once filled with laughter and love, became songs of seduction and sorrow, echoing across the waves and through the ages. These sirens were not the playful mermaids of later legend, but beings cursed to dwell between worlds, forever luring others toward the same ruin they had embraced. Their beauty, once a blessing, became a curse, to be desired eternally, but never truly loved, to sing songs that could never bring peace, only destruction. Their fate was a living warning, a consequence woven into the fabric of creation itself. The punishment reached even further. The fallen angels, bound in darkness, were not spared the agony of their choices. They could still sense the suffering of their wives, feeling every pang of regret, every echo of madness. This was a torment beyond chains, a constant, unending reminder of the cost of rebellion. Love born from defiance had become a legacy of pain, a lesson etched in eternity. This tale, shrouded in ancient texts and whispered through myth, is more than a story of punishment. It is a meditation on the nature of desire, the boundaries set by the divine, and the consequences of crossing lines that were never meant to be touched. The transformation of the women into sirens is not just a mythological flourish, yet a profound allegory. It asks us, what do we become when we pursue love at the expense of truth? How do our choices echo beyond our own lives, shaping destinies we cannot foresee? In the Psalms, we read that deep calls to deepen the roar of your waterfalls. All your waves and breakers have swept over me. The women who became sirens embody this truth, caught between the depths of love and the depths of judgment. Their voices still call out, warning those who would listen. If you find yourself moved by these mysteries, remember to like and subscribe to The Chosen, God's Messages. Your journey into these ancient truths is part of a greater search for wisdom, for understanding, for the courage to face the consequences of desire. Let your voice join the chorus of those who seek, who question, who dare to look beyond the surface. Let us pause here, in the hush after the storm, and reflect on the lessons hidden in the ruins of a world remade. For the story of the wives of the fallen angels is not just a tale of judgment, but a mirror held up to every soul who has ever loved, ever longed, ever risked everything for a dream. The journey continues, and the truth still waits, singing softly from the shadows. Have you ever stood at the edge of a new beginning, only to find that the shadows of the past still linger at your feet? The flood had passed, the world was quiet, and the air was thick with the scent of renewal. Yet, for those who survived Noah and his family, the faithful angels, and the transformed women, the silence was not peace, but a haunting echo of everything lost. The earth, cleansed and reborn, was not a blank slate. It was a canvas stained with memory, with lessons written in sorrow and hope. In the aftermath, humanity emerged from the ark, blinking in the pale light of a sun that seemed both familiar and strange. The ground was soft, the rivers swollen, and the sky stretched wide and empty. There was no laughter, no song, only the cautious steps of those who had witnessed the end of the world. Noah, a man of faith and endurance, knelt upon the earth and built an altar. His sacrifice was not just an offering of gratitude, but a plea of prayer that such devastation would never be needed again. The rainbow that arched across the sky was more than a promise. It was a covenant, etched in color and light, a reminder that even in judgment, mercy endures. God's voice, gentle yet unyielding, spoke to the survivors. Never again will I destroy all living creatures as I have done. The cycle of seasons, the rhythm of seed time and harvest, would continue. Life, fragile and precious, was to be cherished anew. Yet, beneath this covenant, the scars of the past remained. The faithful angels, who had watched the tragedy unfold, now took up their roles as guardians more seriously than ever. They hovered at the edges of human awareness, unseen but present, their vigilance sharpened by the memory of rebellion. They had learned that even the brightest beings could fall, and that love, when twisted by pride or longing, could unravel the very order of creation. For the women transformed into sirens, the world was a prison of memory. The sea became both their refuge and their curse. They wandered the depths, their voices echoing with longing and regret. Each wave that crashed upon the shore was a reminder of the boundaries they had crossed, the love that had become their undoing. Their songs, haunting and beautiful, drifted to the surface, luring sailors and dreamers alike. Yet, beneath the melody was a warning. Not all that is desired brings life. Not every longing leads to joy. The story of the sirens became legend, woven into the fabric of human imagination. Sailors whispered of voices in the mist, of eyes that shone like stars beneath the waves. Some believed the sirens were monsters, others pitied them as tragic figures, forever caught between worlds. But the truth was deeper still. They were living parables, reminders that choices have consequences, and that some wounds do not heal with time. As generations passed, humanity rebuilt, cities rose, fields blossomed, and children played where giants once walked. The memory of the flood faded into myth, but the lessons endured. Parents warned their children to respect the unknown, to heed the wisdom of the past. Elders spoke of the rainbow, of the God who judges and forgives, who sets boundaries not to confine, but to protect. Yet, temptation did not vanish. The allure of forbidden knowledge, the desire to cross into realms beyond understanding, remained a constant whisper. The faithful angels watched, ready to intervene if the balance was threatened again. Their presence was a silent assurance that heaven still cared, that the mistakes of the past need not be repeated. Noah's family, too, carried the weight of memory. They taught their descendants to walk humbly, to honor the sacred, to remember that every blessing comes with responsibility. The world was new, but the human heart was unchanged, capable of great faith and great folly. In the quiet moments, when the wind carried the distant song of the sirens, some would pause and listen. They would remember the story of love and rebellion, of judgment and mercy. They would feel the pull of mystery, the longing for answers that lie just beyond the veil. And in that longing, they would find both caution and hope, a reminder that the journey of the soul is never truly over, that every ending is but the beginning of another search for truth. So, as you walk your own path, remember the lessons of the flood, the rainbow, and the siren's song. Cherish the boundaries that guard your heart. Seek wisdom in the stories of old. And if you find yourself standing at the edge of the unknown, let faith be your guide, and let the memory of those who came before you light your way. If this journey stirs something within you, remember to like and subscribe to The Chosen. God's messages, your presence, your questions, and your courage to seek are part of a legacy that stretches from the dawn of time to this very moment. The story continues, and you are a part of it. Have you ever felt the weight of a legacy you did not choose, the echo of ancient choices shaping your present, the shadow of stories written before you drew your first breath? Imagine the world after the flood, the air crisp, the ground washed clean, but beneath the surface, a quiet tension lingers. The survivors Noah's family, the faithful angels, and the transformed women stood at the dawn of a new era. Yet the past clung to them like mist at sunrise. Noah, the lone patriarch of a restored humanity, bore the burden of memory. Each sunrise was a reminder of what had been lost and what must never be repeated. He taught his children not only how to plant and harvest, but how to remember. The story of the flood was not just a tale of destruction, but a lesson carved into the bones of the earth. That unchecked desire, rebellion, and the crossing of sacred boundaries bring consequences that ripple through generations. The faithful angels, once radiant and untouchable, now watched over the earth with a new humility. Their vigilance was sharpened by sorrow, their presence a silent promise that the mistakes of the past would not be allowed to take root again. They became guardians, not just of humanity, but of the fragile balance between heaven and earth. Every whisper of temptation, every flicker of pride, was met with gentle warning, a reminder that the cost of defiance is too great to bear. Yet the world was not free from struggle. Humanity, though given a second chance, still carried the seeds of longing and curiosity. The allure of the unknown, the temptation to reach beyond what was permitted, remained a constant challenge. The Psalms speak of the human heart as deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Even in a cleansed world, the battle between obedience and desire raged on, not in the heavens, but within every soul. The women, transformed into sirens, wandered the depths of the sea, their voices weaving through the tides. Their songs, haunting and beautiful, were not merely laments for lost love, but living parables. Sailors who heard their melodies felt a longing they could not name, a yearning for something just out of reach. The sirens, once mortal, now existed as both warning and invitation, a reminder that beauty can be both a gift and a curse. That desire can lift us to the heights of joy or drag us into the depths of regret. Legends grew around these figures. Some saw the sirens as monsters, others as tragic victims of a story larger than themselves. But the truth was more complex. They were both creatures shaped by love and judgment, by choices both their own and not their own. Their fate was a mirror reflecting the human condition, the struggle to reconcile longing with wisdom, freedom with responsibility. Noah's descendants spread across the land, building new cities, forging new paths. Yet, the memory of the flood and the warning of the sirens lingered. Elders told their children of the rainbow, a sign of God's promise and mercy, a covenant that the world would never again be destroyed by water. But they also spoke of the boundaries that must not be crossed, the dangers of pride and unchecked desire. In quiet moments, when the sea was calm and the sky clear, some would listen for the siren's song. They would remember the cost of forgetting, the lessons of the past. The faithful angels, unseen but ever present, watched and waited, ready to intervene if darkness threatened to rise again. Their vigilance was not born of fear, but of love, a fierce, protective love that sought to preserve the fragile harmony of creation. As you reflect on these stories, consider the boundaries in your own life. What lines have been drawn for your protection? What desires threaten to pull you beyond what is wise or good? The journey of the soul is a constant balancing act, a dance between longing and restraint, between the call of the unknown and the wisdom of obedience. If these questions stir something within you, Remember to like and subscribe to The Chosen, God's messages. Your voice, your curiosity, and your search for truth are part of a legacy that stretches from the dawn of time to this very moment. The story continues, and you are invited to walk its path with courage and wisdom. Have you ever felt the quiet after a storm, when the world seems washed clean, but every drop of water glistening on the leaves is a memory of the chaos that came before? In that hush, there is a sense that something fundamental has changed, just in the world, but in the hearts of those who survived. The flood was over, the giants were gone, but the scars of rebellion and sorrow lingered in every sunrise and shadow. The survivors, Noah and his family, the faithful angels, and the transformed women stewed in a world reborn, yet haunted by echoes of what had been lost. Noah's family, the new beginning of humanity, faced the daunting task of rebuilding not just homes and fields, but trust in a world that had witnessed the collapse of boundaries meant to keep creation safe. Each day was a lesson in humility. The land, once fertile and familiar, now felt strange beneath their feet. Every seed planted was a prayer, every harvest a reminder that life was a gift, not a guarantee. Noah, who had carried the weight of obedience through ridicule and disaster, now bore the burden of memory. He taught his children not only to work the earth, but to honor the lessons written in rain and silence. The faithful angels watched from the edges of the visible world. Their vigilance was no longer just duty, but a form of penanza, promise, to guard against the seeds of rebellion ever taking root again. They remembered the pain of watching their own kind fall, the agony of seeing love twisted into destruction. Their presence was a silent assurance that heaven still cared, that the mistakes of the past would not be allowed to define the future. Yet, the world was not free from temptation. The memory of the nephilim, the giants born of forbidden unions, lingered like a shadow over the new earth. Legends grew around their strength and their downfall. Parents warned their children not to chase after power or knowledge that was not meant for them. Elders spoke of the rainbow as a sign of mercy, a covenant that destruction would not come again by water, but also a reminder that boundaries exist for a reason. The women, transformed into sirens, wandered the depths of the sea, their voices weaving through the tides. Their songs, both beautiful and mournful, became a living parable for generations to come. Sailors whispered of voices in the mist, of eyes shining beneath the waves. Some saw the sirens as monsters, others as tragic victims. But the truth was more complicated. They were both. Their fate was a mirror, reflecting the human struggle to reconcile longing with wisdom, freedom with responsibility. In the stillness of the new world, the faithful angels became guardians not just of humanity, but of the fragile balance between heaven and earth. Their vigilance was a gift, a shield against the darkness that once threatened to consume creation. They intervened quietly, guiding hearts away from pride and temptation, reminding the world that love, when twisted by desire, can unravel even the strongest bonds. The journey of the soul is never truly finished. Each generation faces its own storms, its own temptations, its own choices. The rainbow in the sky is both a promise and a warning. Mercy endures, but so do the consequences of crossing lines set by wisdom and love. The story of the flood, the Nephilim, and the sirens is not just a tale of ancient judgment. It is a living lesson, a call to walk humbly, to honor sacred boundaries, and to seek truth beyond the allure of the forbidden. If these stories stir something within you, if you find yourself listening for the siren song or searching for the meaning behind the rainbow, remember to like and subscribe to The Chosen God's messages. Your questions, your curiosity, and your courage to seek are part of a legacy that stretches from the dawn of time to this very moment. The journey continues, and you are invited to walk its path with wisdom, humility, and hope. Have you ever walked through a world that feels both new and ancient, where every sunrise promises hope, yet every shadow whispers of the past? Imagine the days after the flood, when the earth was washed clean, but the hearts of its survivors still bore the weight of memory. The journey of Noah's family, the faithful angels, and the transformed women was not just a tale of survival. but a meditation on what it means to live in the aftermath of choices that changed the course of creation. In this reborn world, every step was a reminder that beginnings are never truly free from endings. The land, once ravaged by judgment, now blossomed with new life. Trees stretched toward the sky, rivers sparkled with promise, and the air was thick with the scent of possibility. Yet, beneath this freshness, the survivors carried invisible scars. Noah, the patriarch of a renewed humanity, led his family with a quiet strength. His eyes, seasoned by storms and silence, saw both the beauty of a second chance and the caution required to honor it. The faithful angels, now more vigilant than ever, became silent sentinels at the edges of human experience. Their presence was a comfort and a warning, a promise that heaven still watched, but also a reminder of the cost of defiance. They had witnessed the fall of their own kind, the unraveling of divine order, and now they guarded the fragile peace with a humility born of sorrow. The women, transformed into sirens, were neither forgotten nor forgiven by the world. Their voices, echoing from the depths of the sea, became legends sung by sailors and whispered by those who lived near the shore. Their songs were not merely laments for lost love, but living reminders of the boundaries that must not be crossed. Some saw them as monsters, others as tragic figures, forever caught between worlds. But in truth, they were both warnings and witnesses. Their beauty now a curse, their longing an endless ache. As generations passed, the memory of the flood faded into myth, but the lessons endured. Elders told stories of rainbows, signs of mercy, and covenants that promised the world would never again be destroyed by water. Yet, they also spoke of the dangers of pride, the necessity of humility, and the wisdom of honoring boundaries set for protection, not confinement. The Psalms remind us, teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Each new day in this world was a chance to choose differently, to walk humbly, and to seek truth beyond the allure of the forbidden. The rainbow in the sky was both a promise and a warning. Mercy is real, but so are the consequences of crossing sacred lines. Temptation did not vanish with the flood. The human heart, ever restless, still longed for knowledge, power, and experiences beyond its grasp. The faithful angels watched, ready to intervene if darkness threatened to rise again. Their vigilance was not born of fear, but of love, of fierce, protective love that sought to preserve the harmony of creation. Noah's descendants spread across the earth, building new lives and forging new paths. Yet, the memory of the sirens' song lingered in quiet moments when the sea was calm and the sky clear. Some would listen for those haunting melodies and remember the cost of forgetting the past. The story of the flood, of the nephilim, and of the women who loved the fallen angels became a living parable, a call to balance longing with wisdom, freedom with responsibility. As you reflect on these ancient truths, consider the boundaries in your own life. What lines have been drawn for your protection? What desires threaten to pull you beyond what is wise or good? The journey of the soul is a constant balancing act, a dance between longing and restraint, between the call of the unknown and the wisdom of obedience. If these stories stir something within you, if you find yourself searching for meaning beyond the surface, remember to like and subscribe to The Chosen. God's messages, your questions, your curiosity, and your courage to seek are part of a legacy that stretches from the dawn of time to this very moment. The journey continues, and you are invited to walk its path with wisdom, humility, and hope. Have you ever wondered how the world continues to spin after a storm that changed everything? When the floodwaters receded and the sky cleared, it might have seemed as if judgment had swept away all traces of the past. Yet, beneath the surface, the consequences of ancient choices still pulse through the veins of creation. The survivors, Noah's family, the faithful angels, and the transformed women each carried their own burdens, their own memories, and their own silent prayers for what the future might hold. In the quiet that followed the chaos, a new kind of vigilance settled over the earth. Noah's family, chosen to rebuild humanity, faced the daunting task of forging a new path while never forgetting the lessons written in rain and sorrow. Each sunrise was a reminder of both mercy and warning. The fields they planted, the homes they built, and the children they raised all were shaped by the memory of what had come before. The story of the flood was not just a tale of destruction, but a living covenant, a promise that the world would never again be undone in such a way. The faithful angels, once radiant with the confidence of obedience, now watched over the earth with a humility born from witnessing the cost of rebellion. Their vigilance was more than duty. It was a sacred trust. They hovered at the edges of human awareness, guiding, guarding, sometimes intervening in subtle ways when the balance was threatened. They had learned that even the most glorious beings could fall, and that love, when twisted by pride or longing, could unravel the very fabric of the cosmos. Yet, temptation did not vanish with the flood. The human heart, ever restless, still longed for knowledge, for power, for experiences beyond its reach. The allure of the forbidden remained a constant whisper, a shadow at the edge of every dream. The Psalms remind us, who can discern his errors? Forgive my hidden faults. Each generation faced its own crossroads, its own choices between wisdom and desire, obedience and rebellion. The women transformed into sirens remained a haunting presence, their voices weaving through the tides, their stories echoing in the depths. Some saw them as monsters, others as tragic figures, forever caught between worlds. Their songs, both beautiful and mournful, became a living parabola, warning and a lament, a reminder that some boundaries exist not to confine, but to protect. Sailors whispered of voices in the mist, of eyes shining beneath the waves, and of the dangers that awaited those who ignored the lessons of the past. Legends grew around these figures, shaping the stories told by elders to children, the warnings whispered by mothers to daughters. The sirens were both a curse and a mirror, reflecting the human struggle to reconcile longing with wisdom, freedom with responsibility. Their fate was a reminder that choices made in passion can echo through generations, shaping destinies in ways no one can foresee. The faithful angels continued their guardianship, ever watchful, ever present. Their presence was a silent assurance that heaven still cared, that the mistakes of the past need not be repeated. They intervened quietly, guiding hearts away from pride and temptation, reminding the world that mercy endures, but so do the consequences of crossing lines set by wisdom and love. That as the world rebuilt, the memory of the flood and the warning of the sirens lingered. The rainbow in the sky was both a promise and a warning. Mercy is real, but so are the dangers of forgetting. Each new day was a chance to choose differently, to walk humbly, and to seek truth beyond the allure of the forbidden. If these stories stir something within you, if you find yourself listening for the siren's song or searching for the meaning behind the rainbow, remember to like and subscribe to the Chosen God's messages. Your questions, your curiosity, and your courage to seek are part of a legacy that stretches from the dawn of time to this very moment. The journey continues, and you are invited to walk its path with wisdom, humility, and hope. Have you ever considered how the echoes of ancient choices can shape destinies long after the world believes the story has ended? In the quiet aftermath of judgment, when the floodwaters had receded and the world seemed washed clean, the true consequences of forbidden unions lingered unseen, yet deeply felt. The tale of the wives of the fallen angels did not end with the deluge. Instead, it became a haunting legacy, a spiritual wound echoing through generations. The women who had chosen love over obedience, passion over purity, found themselves transformed by their decisions. Their union with the Watchers, those celestial beings who abandoned their divine posts, had unleashed a corruption that rippled through the very fabric of creation. The nephilim, their children, had been swept away by the flood, but the mothers remained, marked by sorrow, regret, and a strange, lingering power. The aftermath was not simply one of survival, but of transformation. The angelic host, under the command of Archangel Michael, did not overlook these women. Their punishment was profound and symbolic. They were transformed into sirens, beings of haunting beauty and eternal longing, neither fully human nor holy spirit. Their voices, once filled with laughter and hope, became songs of seduction and sorrow, echoing across the waters as a warning to all who might listen. 12. This transformation was more than a myth. It was a living parable about the consequences of crossing divine boundaries. The sirens became reminders that choices made in defiance of sacred order carry repercussions that cannot be easily erased. Their fate was not merely to be mourned, but to serve as an eternal caution, a living echo of paradise lost. The psychological devastation was immense. These women, once loved by beings of light, now wandered between worlds, their grief turning to bitterness as they realized the cost of their passion. Some, like Nama, became infamous, her beauty and pride weaponized, her influence stretching beyond her own fate. Unlike others who were deceived, she deliberately sought power through her relationships with the Watchers, amplifying her own downfall and that of many around her. 1. The transformation into sirens was not only a punishment, but also a prophecy, perpetual reminder of the dangers of forbidden love, pride, and the desire to transcend one's ordained place. Their songs, drifting across the seas, lured the unwary toward ruin, just as their own longing had led them astray. The ancient texts and legends describe these sirens not as mere monsters, but as tragic witnesses to the cost of disobedience, forever marked by the memory of what was lost to Dot in the spiritual realm. Their fate resonates as a symbol of rebellion against heavenly order. The sirens' allure, their beauty, and their sorrow serve as a warning about the seductive nature of sin and the enduring influence of choices made outside the will of the divine. Their existence blurs the boundary between myth and reality, between judgment and mercy, between the longing for love and the necessity of obedience. As generations passed, the story of the sirens became woven into the fabric of human imagination, a tale told by sailors, whispered by elders, and pondered by those who sensed the pull of mysteries beneath the surface. The siren's song is a call to remember. Some boundaries are set not to confine, but to protect. Some desires, when pursued without wisdom, can transform blessings into curses. If you find yourself drawn to these ancient echoes, remember that the journey for truth is ongoing. Like and subscribe to the Chosen God's messages if these mysteries stir something within you. Your search for understanding is part of a greater legacy or quest to discern the lessons hidden in the stories of old, to find wisdom in the warnings, and to walk humbly in the light of truth. The tale of the wives of the fallen angels, their transformation, and their eternal song is not just a story of judgment, but a living meditation on the power of choice, the weight of consequence, and the hope that, even in sorrow, there is a path to wisdom for those who listen. Have you ever wondered how a story truly ends, or if it ever does? As the centuries unfolded after the flood, the world seemed to move on. New generations rose, cities flourished, and the memory of giants and sirens faded into legend. Yet, in the quiet places of the heart and the hidden corners of the soul, the echoes of those ancient choices continued to shape destinies. The tale of the wives of the fallen angels, their transformation, and their eternal song did not simply vanish. With the receding waters, it became a living parable, a caution whispered through time. The sirens, once women who loved beyond their limits, remained a haunting presence. Their voices, now woven into the very fabric of myth and scripture, symbolized the seductive pull of desires that lead away from wisdom. Early Christian thinkers saw in the siren a warning, not just of external temptations, but of the inner struggles that threaten to shipwreck the soul. The siren's song, beautiful yet deadly, became a metaphor for every longing that promises fulfillment but ends in ruin. In this way, the legacy of the wives of the fallen angels was not merely a tale of punishment, but a profound meditation on the nature of temptation, repentance, and the boundaries that protect us from ourselves. Through the centuries, the story of these women was retold in many forms. Some saw them as monsters, others as tragic figures forever caught between two worlds. Their fate became a symbol of the danger of crossing lines set by wisdom, and of the hope that even in judgment, there is a lesson to be learned. The Book of Enoch and other ancient texts remind us that the consequences of forbidden unions were not erased by the flood. Instead, they became part of the spiritual DNA of humanity. A reminder that choices made in passion can echo through generations. In the spiritual realm, the transformation of the wives into sirens was a prophecy. As much as a punishment, their existence stood as a perpetual warning that when the sacred and the profane are mingled, without regard for divine order, the result is not liberation, but bondage. The siren's beauty, once a blessing, became a curse on a lure that could never satisfy, a longing that could never be fulfilled. Their songs lured the unwary, just as their own desires had led them astray. This cycle of temptation and consequence became a mirror for all who would listen, urging each generation to consider the cost of their own choices. Yet, the story is not without hope. The enduring presence of the sirens in legend and scripture serves as a call to wisdom. Their song, though haunting, is also a call to repentance, a reminder that even those who have wandered far from the light can become teachers for those who come after. The boundaries set by the divine are not chains, but safeguards. The lessons of the past are not burdens, but lanterns lighting the path forward. As you reflect on this journey, from the heights of heaven to the depths of the sea, from rebellion to redemption, consider the boundaries in your own life. What desires threaten to pull you beyond what is wise or good? What lessons from ancient stories still speak to your heart today? The journey of the soul is ongoing, and each of us is a part of this living legacy. If these mysteries move you, if you find yourself pondering the echoes of ancient choices in your own life, remember to like and subscribe to The Chosen. God's messages, your voice, your curiosity, and your search for truth are part of a story that never truly ends. Let the lessons of the sirens, the nephilim, and the faithful angels guide you. Seek wisdom, honor boundaries, and walk humbly in the light of truth. The journey continues, and you are invited to walk its path with courage, humility, and hope.